Anthony K, and this is Monsters of the Midweek. Every week, we are going to focus and answer your questions about your Chicago Bears. I will be joined every week by my co-host here, Mike DeFran. Mike, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I love the Justin Fields jersey. We're on board. I'm assuming we're going to be talking some Justin Fields today, too.
Oh, absolutely. That's actually the first question I was about to get into. My first question for you, Anthony, when do you expect Justin Fields to be named the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears?
I have two answers. My first answer is I'm surprised that he hasn't been named the starter already. From the way that I've seen and what I've heard about what he's been doing in training camp, I'm actually really surprised that they're sticking with Andy Dalton. That being said, it's going to depend. So the real answer is it looks like Coach Nagy is determined to start Andy Dalton, and I get it. They don't want to put Justin Fields in a difficult position. They want to ease him in. Andy Dalton was brought in to be the starter, so it looks like he's going to be the starter. Not that he's done anything wrong, that he doesn't deserve that.
Right.
So I think it depends on what they do. If we look at their schedule, their first 9 games before the bye week, it's a tough one. They've got the Rams, the Bengals at home, so that's okay. Then they're in Cleveland. They got Detroit, Las Vegas, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Pittsburgh.
Oof.
That's a stretch where look, if I was to look at this schedule, and I'm not knocking these other teams, but I'm thinking, okay, Bengals, Lions, Raiders are probably 3 games out of 9 that I feel like if I'm putting in a rookie quarterback, I'm like, okay, I feel okay there. But when you're playing the Rams and that defense, the Browns, and they've got an improved defense this year. Green Bay, we always play tough, even though I'm not worried about their defense, but we're going to play them tough. Tampa Bay's defense looks good. San Francisco's defense, unless they're injured, is always strong. And then you got Pittsburgh.
Right.
You've got some really tough defenses. So if Dalton comes out of the gate and he's able to get a couple of wins against some of those early games like Rams, Browns, etc., because that's the easiest stretch if you think about it. The Rams is tough, but then, like I said, Bengals, Browns, Lions, Raiders. That's why I'm surprised that they didn't start him right away, because I'm worried about the Rams. I'm a little bit worried about the Browns, but that's probably the better stretch. If you look at the back half, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Pittsburgh. That's the one I'd be worried about. So now it puts, to answer your question, so if I don't start him week 1, we probably get out to a pretty good start, because I'm thinking 3-2 in those first 5 games. I think we beat the Bengals, we beat the Lions, and we beat the Raiders, right? I'm not saying we don't beat the Rams and the Browns. I'm just saying those are the 2 games that,
tough.
Those are tougher games. So let's say we're 3-2. Well, do you pull Dalton out with a 3-2 record going into that lineup of the next games? That you're putting Fields in a more difficult position than starting him week 1.
Right.
So to answer your question, if they were to make a change, it would have to be either 1, we're in a really bad spot and we're like 1-5, right? Or we're 0-4, 0-5. And then it's tough, because do we really, the season's kind of, if you start 0-4, 0-5, the season's done. So you don't want to be in that situation. Let's not think of that. So flip the script. So if you're 3-2, 4-2, 5-3, well, do you want to take Dalton out at that point? Well, no, you got a winning record. You have, you're making a push to the playoffs. So the only way I see Fields coming in is in the bye week 10, right? You want to install him into the first team offense. And it's because those first 9 weeks we're 4-5, we're 5-4. And you're seeing something in practice that tells you, listen, we got to make a second half push. Fields is our guy. He's seen enough of real-time football to be our guy. So that's that. So I don't see him going in unless it's a disastrous start before the bye week.
Yeah, I was actually going to say something very similar. We saw the Dolphins do a similar thing with Tua last year, came in right around the bye week. Dolphins were, a good team with Fitzmagic. Obviously, same thing with Dalton being that veteran guy. But another point that I was going to make that is a segue into our next question is if, like you mentioned, the Bears are just disastrous, they're 0-3, 0-4, whatever, Nagy and Pace, or Nagy specifically, might just put him in to save his job. Because, who knows if his job is on the line here, which leads to my second question. Do you think Matt Nagy and GM Ryan Pace are on the hot seat for this season?
They better be. They better be. They've taken a phenomenal defense. They've had a great, and this has been kind of our MO, right? We have these great defenses and we waste them on not getting the offense right. And so Pace had an opportunity to come in, great defense, and look, I don't want to bring up the Mitch Trubisky draft again, but let's be honest, that's a mistake that cost us for 3 years, if not longer, between the draft picks and Mitch just being the wrong guy, not developing, or is it Nagy not putting him in the right positions to be successful? Wherever you want to put the onus on, they better be on the hot seat because they put us in this situation where we are now. Now, we all believe they did the right thing by stepping up and getting Justin Fields. But is it too little too late? So if they have a losing season, if Nagy can't get this offense to match or even be close to what I'm expecting from this defense, if healthy, then yeah, at minimum, he should be there. But look, I put a lot of that on Pace. I think, I've been very critical of Ryan Pace. As much as I've been, I gave him his due or his flowers, as they say, for getting Justin Fields and some of the other pieces. Like, don't get me wrong, he's been the only thing I think Pace does wrong is evaluate quarterbacks. If you think about what he's done with quarterbacks since he's come in, right? He was enamored with Mariota, but he didn't get him. But he was public about he loved Mariota. Then he signs Glennon. He signs Foles. He makes that draft for Trubisky. Like I said, it's been one quarterback mistake after another. And in this day and age, quarterback's your most important position. That's the one you got to get right. And people are going to forget some of the other things that he did that were correct, right? So the wide receivers he brought in, the running back, the defensive player, all those things were the right move. He's going to be remembered. And look, if Justin Fields isn't what we think he is, if he turns out to be one of these other Ohio quarterbacks, right, that we've seen in the past, yeah, then his job should be on the line. He should be on the hot seat.
Yeah, definitely agree about Ryan Pace specifically. I tend to give Matt Nagy a little bit more of a grace period, just because obviously we know how Mitch was. I'm not going to bring that up. So excited to see what he does with Justin Fields. So assuming that it doesn't go bad and that we are a winning football team, do you think, especially with the return of Aaron Rodgers for at least this season, do you think the Bears have a realistic chance to win the NFC North this season?
I would have felt much better about it if Rodgers had packed up his things and took his ball and went home. That being said, that's really going to be the hump. I think we're a better team than the Lions. The Vikings, I think we're a better team than the Vikings, although in odd years, the Vikings always seem to have a good record, which is just odd. But I think we're a better team than the Vikings. I think our defense is better than Green Bay, right? The only thing we don't have, I would say, is a better quarterback. And it's the most important position. So do we have a shot? Absolutely. The ball has to bounce in our favor. Like I said, if we go through those teams, right? I mentioned that start of 3-2. If we can get one of those games against the Browns or the Rams and we start 4-1, right? If we can split the Green Bay, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Pittsburgh. So now we're looking at what is that? 6-3 after week 9. I feel good. Look, again, the second half isn't easier, Baltimore, but I think that's a winnable game. I think we have the defense that could slow down Lamar Jackson and that offense. It'll be a tough one, don't get me wrong, but it's in Chicago, so I feel good about that one. Then you got Detroit, Arizona, obviously Green Bay again. We got to split with Green Bay, right? Like if we're going to win, that's always been our thing. If we can win, if we go 2-0, obviously, but if we can split with Green Bay, I think we're better than Detroit and Minnesota. So I think it gives us an opportunity. So the second half, as I mentioned, so Green Bay, then you got Minnesota, at Seattle, which is always a tough place to play, no matter, it doesn't matter what happens with whether the team's good or not, and they're going to be good this year. Is Seattle's always a tough place to play. And we're back to, I'm assuming we're away from the COVID stuff. So it's going to be back to, the 12, right? It's going to be back to regular Seattle. So you're going to have a tough
they've announced full capacity already for sure.
Full capacity. There you go.
Yeah.
And then we end the season with the Giants and Minnesota. So if we're close, right? If we're a 9-win team, 8-win team going into those final 2 weeks, can we get to 10 or 11 wins? Yes. Is that going to be enough in a 17-game season? like 11-6, yeah, I think it puts us in that conversation as long as we have the tiebreak against Green Bay. So long way to answer the question, do we have a shot? Yes, but a couple things have, as with everybody, we have to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Right? A couple of balls have to bounce our way as well. And a lot's going to be put on, I think, the defense, right? Which is always is. So whether it's Fields or Dalton starting, they got to play safe. They can't make mistakes. They got to be on the field. Like, I think what hurts the Bears historically, what has hurt us historically is, it's not, our defense is never bad. It's when they're on the field for so long that you just start getting tired, mistakes start to happen, and people take advantage of it. So as long as those things don't happen, I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, you mentioned splitting with Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers has seemed to just play his best football over the years, the 2 games a year he plays against the Bears. So obviously, I think beating Green Bay at least once would save Matt Nagy for at least a year. It would make a statue of Justin Fields if he beat Green Bay, obviously. So I think that's definitely the key, is to beat Green Bay at least once. Aim for the Chicago game because Lambeau is always tough. Lambeau sucks. But aim for the one in Chicago to beat Green Bay. And I think we have a shot, too, of winning the division for sure.
Yeah. Green Bay on December 12th, right? It's probably going to be cold. It's probably going to be cold.
Going to be cold.
But I'll tell you, I always go back to something that Lovie Smith said, and it has stuck with me. And I loved that he said it, because it really, if you go back and look, it really has been the key. When Lovie Smith took over as head coach of the Bears, they said, what's your first goal? He said, beat Green Bay. Without hesitation, right? He was like, beat Green Bay. If we beat Green Bay, we're right away going to be in the conversation for winning our division. We're going to be in the playoffs, and we're going to have an opportunity for all those other things. And what did they do under Lovie Smith? They beat Green Bay.
Yeah, they did.
And look what they did. They had winning records. Like, even the year he got fired, which I'm still upset about, mind you, he was 10-6, right? In 2006, they beat Green Bay. What do? They go to the Super Bowl. So beating Green Bay isn't just a rivalry, the oldest rivalry in football, and you want to beat them because they're in your division. It does send kind of a message to the team that, hey, those guys are the gold standard right now. Beat them. We got this division. If you win the NFC North, hey, you're in the playoffs. You have a good chance at going deep into the playoffs. So that's, always a key. Always a key.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
All right, so that's it for this week in Monsters of the Midweek. Send your questions. You can either comment here, obviously subscribe to the YouTube channel, or you can always send your questions to Anthony K at sportsfluent.com. Until next week.